Thank you. My name is Matthew Palumbo, and assisting me today to make the presentation is Miss Amanda Robinson, Sapphire, and Dusky. Now, one thing that we all can say is that we all know the phrase, first impressions mean everything. But sometimes they don't, especially if you have a label, because labels come with what are known as stereotypes. So the part I'm going to be talking to you guys about to start things off is the idea of how we should learn to own our labels so that way we don't fall victim to what I'd like to call the misconception of the first impression. And to start this out, I would like to let you know that my son Ethan is going to begin passing out a paper for all of you to look at, which talks about something called victim stance. This is where you can take a label to extremes, whether you feel like the world's always going to be bad to you, or you want to have revenge on the world because of what situations have had happen to you. Interestingly enough, this is all flavor text that was actually from actual cards that were in the CCG series. So that's why you'll see that. And now we're going to move on to the first section where I'm going to speak about self-fulfilling prophecies and perceived projected limitations. What was going to be shown in the first clip is how, if any of you got to see the episode about the Power Ponies, Spike really set himself up for a self-fulfilling prophecy that made him feel and believe he was useless. So let's see that.
Of course, the maniac wouldn't have even known if Humdrum hadn't slipped up and told her all about it. Humdrum? Nah, the guy in the blue boots and pointless red cape. The Power Pony's bumbling and totally useless sidekick. The Power... Good old Spike is here, ready to do his part. A little more to the left. No, the other left. Awesome, that's perfectly where it is. On to the next baby. You sure you don't need any help? No, that's okay. We don't have anything under control. Dash? I'm good. Isn't there anything I can help you with, Twilight? Don't worry about it, Spike, so good. I think she's right. It looks like we've got it, Spike. Looking great, every pony. Why don't you find a quiet spot and finish reading your comic? Weren't you right at the part where Humdrum was about to stop the villain? Humdrum never stops the villain. He's just there for comic relief. Rarity, let me give you a look with that. I could do it. That's okay, Spike. Electro Orb! Well, this has been quite the mane-raising experience. But I really must be going. Why, thank you, Humdrum. I'm Humdrum. Oh no. Almost all of us have superpowers. But you must have them too, Spiky Boo. Your character is wearing a cape. Yeah, for absolutely no reason. It's pretty much useless. Fluttershy, please, just a little anger? Well, I'm not so much angry as I'm concerned, bordering on terrified. Don't spray! Oh, Humdrum, why in all of Metropolis would I use the hairspray ray of doom on you? Rather pointless, don't you think? What am I supposed to do? I'm useless. No wonder my friends never need me to do anything important. They're the ones with superpowers. They've probably already figured out how to escape.
Now, did you all notice how Spike set himself up with a self-fulfilling prophecy by believing that Humdrum was useless? In making himself believe Humdrum was useless, it carried over to lower his self-esteem and self-confidence when he perceived he was not useful when the ponies were cleaning the castle. And then, when he got drawn into the comic, because of how he already felt low self-esteem, low self-confidence, and had become Humdrum, he allowed himself to label himself as Humdrum. He didn't make himself see a different version. He forgot entirely that he's Spike, that he's useful, and anybody who has seen the rest of the episode knows that he is capable of a lot of things. But that's what happens to a lot of us. We can get trapped into thinking because of our label or because of what someone said or because of something that was written that obviously because I'm this is what I'm always going to be. And that is what that was to help demonstrate, is that to own your cutie mark and label, you have to be able to say, there are possibilities. I'm more than this label. And more importantly, bad things are not always going to happen to me, or I'm not always going to be labeled negatively because I label myself. So now I'm going to move on to the opposite end of the spectrum on this, from where you always feel like something bad's going to happen to you, to where something may make you feel angry. In this case, we're going to go to our good friend Starlight Glimmer. As we all know, she created a whole world full of equality, but her equality was based on a traumatic life event, which we'll be showing shortly. But in her traumatic life event, what happens is she feels that because something happened, that it's always going to happen and that no one should ever be able to experience this wonderful feeling of achieving a goal because it ruined her life. So let's play the clip.
My mind. You don't know anything about me. I was perfectly happy before you and your friends ruined what I built. I don't know what happened that led you to make your village without cutie marks. And I'm sorry my friends and I had to take it away. You want to know what's happening to me? I'll show you! Where are we? That map of yours is connected to every part of Equestria, and this part is my home. Sunburst and I did everything together. In fact, I don't remember us ever being apart. Until today. Just like that, my friend was gone. His family recognized his magical talent and sent him off to Canterlot. I never saw him again. Well, why not? Because of his cutie mark. He got his and I didn't. He moved on and I didn't. I stayed here and never made another friend because I was too afraid another cutie mark would take them away too. That's ridiculous. A cutie mark can't take your friends away. Not every pony's lucky enough to get her cutie mark at the same time as her friend. You don't know what it's like to lose a friend because of a cutie mark. But once I stop the rainbow, you will. And when I destroy this scroll, there'll be no way for you to change it.
Now let's think about that for a second. Lots of us experience traumatic events in our lives. And yes, there are times where you wonder, why is it always me? Why can't someone else have to deal with this? Why do I have to keep handling this? Why do I have to have this unfair burden put upon myself? However, if you get a mentality where someone should have to feel how I feel because this awful thing happened to me, what's going to happen is you're going to project a version of yourself to everyone that no one's going to want to be around. You're going to create your own loneliness. And this is why, in the case of Starlight, we're very happy that she ended up being befriended by Twilight and that she has learned that with help from friends, family, and other support systems, you can overcome a traumatic life event. I myself have gone through over 45 ocular surgeries over my life, all of them gradually taking my vision down to nothing. However, I can tell you I'm not vengeful. The reason is I know that the doctors are learning, and what they're learning is what's going to allow people to not have to go through what I did. Being able to see a traumatic life experience as a learning experience as opposed to something that's making your life worse is one of the best ways to cope with it. And with Starlight, if she would have been able to have the right supports in place, friends, family, even maybe a therapist, she would have been able to see that it wasn't the cutie mark that caused the problem. It's just she needed to be able to be confident enough to go and try to make new friends. So now let's move on to another issue, which is what we consider an environmental limitation. How many of you know about Diamond Tiara? Now, how many of you know about Crusaders of the Lost Mark? The thing about that episode is that we learned something that really blew all our minds, and that is, for all the seasons of My Little Pony, we thought Diamond Tiara was nothing but a very mean, angry, grumpy, purposely evil character. But just like with people, we never got the full story, did we, until that episode? And in which case, we'll show that full story right now.
I know Diamond Tiara's pretty awful, but we should probably make sure she's okay. Just because she's never cared about any pony else's feelings doesn't mean we shouldn't care about hers.
Diamond Tiara! Why are you making that face? That is not the face of a winner.
Because I didn't win.
What? You mean I have did all these party supplies to celebrate nothing?
Sorry, Mother.
It's bad enough you lost to that transplant from Trottingham, but imagine if you lost to one of those blank blanks. As a rich pony, you must always think of your social standing. That starts here in Ponyville and reaches all over Equestria. Don't ever forget that, Diamond Tiara. Ever!
Now, when you think of someone and you meet them for the first time and they seem a little like, maybe they seem like a little standoffish, shy, it could be because of an environmental limitation, because you don't always get to see what their whole life is like. Up until that point, we did not know that Diamond Tiara was being asked and pretty much pushed by her parents to live up to a standard that honestly was hurting her. So again, this is where trying to be a friend like the Cutie Mark Crusaders were in this episode makes the difference, because they got to see the truth. They got to talk to Diamond Tiara about the truth. And now, hopefully moving forward, we're going to see a brand new Diamond Tiara that realizes 100% that just because she's told that she has to meet a standard, she doesn't. She just needs to be herself and not worry about what anyone else says, even if it is in her environment. And yes, environmental limitations are very hard to get around, especially if you don't have a lot of money, if you don't have a nice house, if you live in a particular neighborhood. I mean, just sometimes there's your environment, you can't do much about it. But fortunately, there are a lot of places you can go to, a lot of people you can talk to, even at schools or various other centers, to find ways so that way you can get out of derogatory, negative environments, so you can become that person you want to be instead of what that environment is making you feel and traumatizing you through. So I'll end my portion by talking about perhaps the best thing of all, which is owning your cutie mark. Up to this point, we talked about how you can get yourself to a point where you feel like everything bad's always going to happen to you, or I'm going to get even with the world. But now we're going to show what happens is a label is but one part of a giant whole. And heck, even though we don't have little marks on our rumps that say, hey, I'm this, or or cutie pox that points out stuff, the whole point is a label should be something that you take to yourself. For me, my blindness is just one part of who I am. The rest of me is fully functional and ready for action. And nothing says it more than Silly Philly Studios, now SFS Studios, their animation Snowdrop. And in this clip, you're going to see how Snowdrop herself proves she is not her limitation, that she owns her limitation, and more importantly, no matter what people try to project upon her or what is being said to her, she is owning herself and showing that she is an individual and not a limitation or a definition.
I've been working so hard. Please, I have a gift for the seasons too, and... Doubt that. May we see it?
You brought snow?
And just one little dot of it.
Maybe she grabbed the wrong thing on her way here?
Why would you bring snow to the spring sunrise? It's not snow. I made a star.
A star? You can't make stars. It doesn't even look like one.
Maybe it doesn't look like one, but it's still a star. It's a star for winter. I can't see what the stars look like up there. Just like I can't see what spring looks like. But I can hear it all, and I heard the snow twinkling just like the stars do every night. So they should be able to grant wishes too, shouldn't they? Winter's been giving us a gift all this time, and we've just been ignoring it. Celebrating spring is good, but winter can't be all bad if it gives us these. It may be cold and dark, but that doesn't mean there isn't any good to it. Maybe winter is sad that every pony doesn't like it. So, maybe we need to make wishes on the winter snow, just like how we wish on the night stars. Maybe then we can have a happy winter instead. We already have a happy spring, and summer, and fall. Can't winter be happy too? Because winter, it's important. Even if it seems useless, it can give us wonderful things. So...
May we see your wishing snow? Could you make us some more?
Now, did you all notice how well Snowdrop asserted her own self-confidence and self-validation? That is what the goal of owning your cutie mark is all about. It's being able to say, people can say that this is what the definition in a book says I should be, but I'm an individual. I make the definition of myself. All the kids that were teasing her and telling her, oh, you don't know what a star looks like, that didn't matter to her. To her, what her mother had described as being a star was a star. And that is what we all need to remember when we have a limitation. We don't have to be like other artists. We don't have to be like other people. We don't have to live up to whatever's on a particular page in a textbook or what we're told by something specifically. We are individuals, first and foremost, that should always be able to say, if someone says something to me, that's just their opinion, an opinion. Don't let anything that anyone says to you 100% define you, or you could end up in a situation like was illustrated by Spike in Starlight Glimmer. And now to move on to the next part of our presentation, I'm going to be turning it over to Amanda Robinson, who, along with Dusky and Sapphire, I'm so sorry, are going to show you how roleplay and cosplay are a very intricate part in helping you to build self-esteem and self-validation, because they are both proven through therapy and education in building social skills, self-esteem, and self-confidence. So I thank you, and now introduce Miss Amanda Robinson.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Matt. I'm Amanda, and I work with individuals with limitations and special needs up in Pittsburgh, PA. I help them find jobs in the community and help them have meaningful everyday lives just like everybody else. So that way they are not defined by some label that some doctor put on them at some point. Now, what does that have anything to do with dressing up? What I'm going to talk to you guys about today, and Sapphire and Dusky are going to be kind of helping me with a bit of their own testimonials as well about cosplay and how it's changed them. One of the things that I think is really interesting is that cosplay allows people an opportunity to express themselves in a way that they otherwise never would have been able to do in any other venue. I mean, you can't technically walk down the street in a furry suit, but certain times of the year, that's acceptable. So what is cosplay? You know, one of the definitions that I thought, very good, was cosplay is the art of dressing up as fictional characters, as historical figures, original designs. The word cosplay comes from a combination of the word costume and play, and has gone from an underground hobby to gaining major traction all over the world in the last 20 years. Cosplayers will make costumes, typically go to conventions, like the one we are at today, to model these costumes, to get photographers to take professional photo shoots of them, posting on social media. Cosplay is largely about creating and making your own costume, and while some people only model and buy their costumes, the majority really do take pride in the creations that they have. And the really important thing is this last line that it says, not only about the costume, but it's about the way the people use it to show their own selves through transgressive methods. You know, there's also lots of other different types of cosplay. There's things called crossplay or gender bending. You know, some of you were at BronyCon up in Pittsburgh this past weekend. I know there are other people that are in, you know, full mascot outfits and things like that, you know, and people dress up everything from, you know, pop culture to superheroes, anime, comics. I mean, if you can think of it, someone's probably, is going to make a costume of it. And if you want to think of something completely different that nobody's ever done, well, guess what? You can do that too. So why do we do this? Why do we cosplay? You know, why do adults spend all of this money and time on costumes? Because trust me, if you guys ever saw how much money and time my friends and I have spent, it definitely adds up. Well, you know, first off, cosplay is so much more than just that. You know, it not only teaches people new skills, it also gives people an outlet to find out things about themselves and to work through things in their own time and in a really creative way, and to also help them find and create their own community. So, throughout this presentation, I'm going to be showing you guys little clips of what I'm calling cosplay confessionals. I'm, with Matt's help, going to be putting together a book at some point soon when I get enough information of basically testimonials of people all over the country of how cosplay has helped them through a particular time in their life or what it means to them. And I'm hoping that this will be a really great tool to help others and just really help launch their self-esteem. So that's what you're going to be seeing these little clips from. And so the pictures that you're seeing in this is, on the left, you see my friend's Mr. Black. It's an OC that he uses in some of his movies and amateur films. And on the right is actually my nephew. And one of the labels that he does have is autism or Asperger's. And up until this photo was taken, he really didn't have an outlet. And because of that, you know, weird poison ivy chick, I don't know who that is. His crazy aunt said, you know, I think it would be so much fun if we started dressing up together and I started to teach you how to sew. And now he goes to the anime convention in Pittsburgh every year, and he tells us what we're going to be wearing. This year he's like, oh, we're all going to be Sailor Scouts. Okay, that sounds great. He's like, well, what am I going to wear? And I was just, well, you could be Tuxedo Mask. And he was just like, oh, well, that's a boring costume. I want to do something different. And I was like, well, we could do a gender bend of one of the Sailor Scouts. And he was like, oh, I can't wait. So it's something he looks forward to. And now he's able to make friends with some of the kids he does competitions with, the video games he plays with them there. And he has created an entire, what I call a family, at the anime convention. And through cosplay, he was able to do that. Which kind of leads me right into the next slide, which is family participation. You know, through self-expression, family participation, I think, is so key right now. We live in a very virtual and self-gratifying age right now, and with technology being what it is, you know, a lot of times kids are just stuck in front of a TV or they have a tablet or other things. But how great would it be is instead of just watching a movie or a TV show, you actually sit your kids down and you say, hey, let's make something together. Let's create something. Let's be creative. Let me teach you a skill, because all the gentlemen in the room, now granted this is a bit of a different venue, but how many of you can sew? Well, give yourselves a round of applause. Ladies, how many of you can sew? Please raise your hand. Oh, it's about half, okay. And how many of you cannot do either? A lot. Now, wouldn't it be awesome if at some point maybe a guardian or, you know, someone that you looked up to or a mentor sat you down and said, hey, I'm going to teach you this. I'll tell you right now, you know, I'm 30 years old and I'm married with 2 kids, and I had to learn how to cook and clean to be a housewife because unfortunately my mother never got to teach me all those things. And so family participation, I feel, is extremely important. And it really does keep the family together, and it really does teach kids patience and that everything doesn't happen immediately, that things take time. And if you're gonna really care about something, it's gonna take even longer. And teaching children that right now in this very, you know, virtual and very quick, self-gratifying age, I think is extremely important. The next piece here is learning about your true self. The 2 pictures that you see here is one of my friends, and this was the very first photo shoot that we ever did of him in a dress. And he was cosplaying here as Snow White. We did an entire photo shoot all about different fairy tale, you know, characters. And, you know, through this experience, he was able to, you know, kind of come out and be more of who he is, and in a completely different way than none of us and our other friends ever thought that we would ever be able to see him in that light. The other photo is of my friend. That was his first furry suit that he ever made. And now he has a trophy, just so you all know, that he is Pittsburgh's #1 furry. Yes, yes. And, you know, he actually used to work at Disney, and he makes the most amazing, you know, things that you've ever seen. You know, his creativity knows no bounds. And, but he always says to me, you know, it's like when I'm in my Cheshire Cat outfit or when I'm in this outfit, you know, he's like, I get to be that character, and I'm not just some weird 40-year-old guy like running around a convention. I get to be different, I get to be me, I get to be expressive and exciting. And learning that about yourself and having a means to be able to express it is extremely, I can't express. If you haven't had that experience, those of you that maybe don't cosplay, maybe some of you that have never reached out and kind of grasped at that brass ring, so to speak, you know, I really want you to look deep inside yourselves and think, you know, if I could be any character, and if I could think of one person that I could be that could help me through something, or maybe a comic that you read or a book that you know, read at some point to get you through a hard time, or maybe a specific song that you listened to or a movie you watched, you know, all of those things really do, you know, they're all great therapeutic tools to help us through tough times. And that's going to lead me into Sapphire, and Ari is going to be talking a little bit about some of her original characters.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about roleplay as a coping mechanism mostly. There's many methods for this, but I'm going to be talking about using it to see the good and bad situations, to work through a limitation, and to better understand the limitations of others. Okay, when you have really strong limitations, sometimes it can be hard to see beyond them. By role-playing a character who has strong limitations but still sees the good in everything, it can help you to get into that same mindset. For example, I use my characters Fall and Scruff. Both are orphan children with disabilities who have no powers or possessions, except for Fall has her headband her mother gave her, and Scruff has a teddy bear. By playing characters like these, you can see that even when all seems lost, there are still good things all around you. Fall, for example, loves nature, everything about it, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the feels. Nature is there for everyone, whether you have anything or not, no matter which sense you use to observe it, and no matter what your limitation. Scruff, on the other hand, loves everyone and everything. Even though they've been through a lot, they still have the pure happiness that only 3-year-olds have. So role-playing or cosplaying an OC like this works as a reminder to see the good all around us. Sorry. This is why I cosplay Fall, who I almost cosplayed but didn't, so that I can see the world through her eyes. Okay. It can also be used for working through things. We want to do more than just see past our limitations. We want to work through them and get a better understanding of them as best we can. By role-playing realistically, we can take these limitations and put them into the characters we play, allowing us to see how others react to them and to better understand how these limitations make us act. This applies to all kinds of limitation, but I'll be using mainly examples of projected limitations since this is the main kind I deal with in myself. I use this method to work through old limitations and new ones, and you can all do that too. When I was younger, I behaved really strangely. This got me kicked out of schools, camps, other activities. I never stayed in one place for really long. So to work through these, I created Bilgewater, who's the little one on the screen. I just call him Billy, but for those who don't know, Bilgewater is technically the stuff they throw off a boat, which is a pretty accurate description of how his life began. Because my behaviors felt like a part of who I was and not something that could easily be turned off and on at will. At the time, they coordinate with Billy's epilepsy, which in a world that we have seen no character show it and ponies freak out over differences in species like they did with Sakura, I determined this would frighten them and look like dark magic. When I play him, it always begins that he's wandering around or kicked out of a home, school, daycare, somewhere like that. What makes playing a character like him really good for coping is the person that you're playing with. Bronies are a very tolerant and accepting group, so their character almost always accepts yours, which helps to remind you that although the world may be cruel, there is nothing wrong with who you are, and there are always people out there who will accept you for it. Roleplay also works for more current limitations, not just past ones. By playing out a scene with a character who has the limitations you do, whether from the show or your own OC, you can figure out better ways to cope with it and use, to cope with it. I could use Diamond Tiara here since I have a similar projected limitation, but I prefer one of my OCs since they're more personal, so I created Sapphire, who I thought she's in the corner. And I'm cosplaying her. Sapphy is a 12-year-old filly who is being pressured in school to be perfect, a lot like Diamond Tiara, but in her case, the perfection is about grades, and all she really wants to do is go adventure. When role-playing her, she's usually run away after getting a bad grade. This should probably lead into her seeing that this is not the best method for dealing with projected limitation, and that confronting it is better, but I'm still working through it with her, so I'm not entirely sure. She does have a few other limitations, being very directly based off myself, but that's the main one I use her to work through. That is the one. Roleplay isn't just a way of handling our own limitations, though. It works very well to help learn about the limitations of others by seeing through their eyes. Of course, it's very important to research the limitation, know the character, and know that not everyone with the same limitation acts the same way. By role-playing a character like Billy, I have not only been able to work through past limitations, but also to get a better understanding of the limitations of others, in his case of epilepsy. But the character I use most for this is Bucky. He's the yellow one. I've had it pretty easy understanding work in school, although I was pretty lost socially. As a teacher, As I want to be a teacher, I know it's very important to understand that not all students learn the same way. Some of you may have noticed, if you read our stories, that there's a character called Miss Star, who's the teacher. That's me. I play her teaching all of my other characters and other people's characters so that I can get an understanding of the way different children learn. Although it's never been directly stated in our stories, Bucky has dyslexia, learning disability. So when I play as Bucky, I'm able to see how he learns through his eyes, and then through Stardust, figure out methods to help him learn. This can be used by teachers, parents, friends, families, even strangers. If you roleplay a pony with a limitation after researching it deeply, you will have a much better understanding of people with that limitation.
Thank you, Ari.
Okay, hello. Okay, hello. My name is Dusky, and I will be talking to you all, backing up her speech, with understanding the limits you have to put on such things. I personally suffer from PTSD, anxiety, insomnia, ADHD, chronic depression. I could go on. And it is very, very easy when you use roleplay like this to make your character a better version of yourself and get lost in that world. It's easier, is it not? Especially if your character can cope with things you might not be able to, such as grades, social situations. You have friends online, maybe other characters. And it's very easy to get lost in that world. And sometimes when you do, your real life suffers. It is very important in my eyes to be able to draw that line, that it is perfectly okay to use roleplay and cosplay to cope with your limitations and to move past your labels and to become a better version of yourself and to better understand other people's limitations and their own personal labels. But it is also very important, sorry, I'm just here to draw the line. I personally, with my character Dusklight, right there, got so drawn into role-playing and improving myself through my characters that my real life started to suffer. My work started to drop off, my social life outside of online started to drop off, and my depression started to get worse because my whole life was in my character, not just myself. My character Dusklight there, she's a draft Pegasus, and she exhibits many of the same symptoms I do. And, sorry, one second. You know, when I was younger, as Ari said, you know, I had some strange behavior, and it got me ostracized socially. In grades, I never really had any trouble, but socially, I was a mess. Sorry, one second. So I got so into roleplay again that I just lost myself in my real world. My grades dropped, and I stopped trying to interact outside of that. So it's very important in my eyes to take the lessons you learn in roleplay and with your character and feed them into yourself in real life. Don't just become your character should become you.
Right. Thanks, Dusky. So we're going to be wrapping up here in the next couple minutes, and we're going to be talking a little bit about how does cosplay help other people. So we've been talking about how it can help you with your self-expression, how it can help, you know, bring families together, how it can help you cope through things, you know, get past limitations. The individuals that you're seeing up on the screen right now are some people that one is, the Wonder Woman is a good friend of mine, and she does Wonder Woman for several charities all over Pittsburgh, and actually she travels all over the U.S., working with kids, going to hospitals and things like that. And I think that it's very important to remember that when we are cosplaying, to always think of how we can bring it back to the community. How can we help better our neighborhoods? How can we better our towns? I know lots of people that will go to hospitals and work with kids there. Again, I'm always looking for opportunities to do cosplay. I know it sounds weird at my work, but you know, and one of the organizations that I'm working with are called the Bohana group, and they're from Harrisburg area, and I'm working with them to teach families and schools and different organizations about role-playing games such as Dungeons and Dragons or live-action role-playing, and how those also can be used for therapeutic means of how to work through things with kids. So I'm actually adding the cosplay aspect to teach kids different skills through that as well. And again, these are all ways that we can give back. And I'm just going to finish up here with this little slide that I just had to entitle Friendship is Magic, because how can I not? You know, I have met so many, I use the word colorful people because of cosplay. I have, you know, personally, I think I've kind of run the gamut. I have not made a full furry suit yet, but I'm sure it will happen at some point. You know, I've done crossplay. The photo you see there is me and my friends doing gender bend Disney villains. We actually won one of the competitions in Pittsburgh with that large group cosplay. You see us as our My Little Pony characters doing a charity event for a family who they had a barn burned down in our local community, and they lost 7 horses. It was a very, very sad tragedy, and we were raising money. We actually, just that event alone, raised over $5,000 for that family. Thank you. And always looking for ways to increase your community. Like Dusky was saying, don't get lost in that world. Don't just retreat into it and never come back out. Always think of how you can increase your community, because I'll tell you right now, through all of the things we've talked about here today, we've talked about things maybe we were born with, maybe, you know, things that were put on us by others, you know, is evil, you know, born or is it made, you know, type of a thing. You know, are we just given these labels from the beginning? Are these labels created as we go on? Are they a cutie pock that all of a sudden you just have all of these labels being thrown at you? If you take nothing from this, at least from my portion of it, I could not do any of those things without my friends. Community is everything, so take this opportunity when you're here, make a community. Get friends, get people that are going to not only accept your labels and accept your cutie mark and who you really are. Don't change for other people. Be you. Be colorful, be different, stand out, and it's okay to say different things. Never be ashamed of being different and being who you really are. So I'm just gonna say it one last time, that friendship is what? Thank you guys.
And if anyone has any further questions, because I know we're going to have to let the next panel in, we'll be out in the back here behind the Hall of the Moon to take any additional questions you may have after the panel.
We also have some flash drives and some other literature to hand out to you guys as well if you'd like this presentation and all of the other wonderful presentations that Matt has done here at BronyCon.
All right, thank you very much. Now I'd like to ask everyone to please clear out the room. We have to prepare for the next panel.